In Attack on Titan, the tragic state of the world forces characters into situations where they must act against their nature to achieve something the story refuses to give them: peace, happiness, and freedom. Isayama writes the characters so well that many of them already realize that in order to achieve their dreams, they must do things that, while they may not want to do, they need to do. However, there is one character that defies this pattern and willingly becomes the exact kind of prick the story needs to achieve its intended complexity.
巨人を滅ぼすことができるのは悪魔だ。悪魔を蘇らせる。それが俺の使命だったんだ。
Floch stands out because he fully embraces the role of a devil, showing no hesitation when doing what is necessary. And as the story evolves, we see him also evolve, becoming more and more cruel. This explains why so many dislike him. But there are numerous characters in fiction that people hate. However, that's not because they're bad characters, but because they're so good at being bad. Because that's how well written they are. Floch fits this category perfectly, and his presence in Attack on Titan offers a much needed contrast to the more heroic and compassionate characters that we're used to. What's so intriguing is that Floch's journey didn't start this way. He was pretty much a background character that was used to highlight the stark contrast between the new recruits and our more battle-hardened protagonists.
うるせえ！もう意味ねえだろ！なんだと！あんなに強かった調査兵団がみんな一瞬で死んだんだぞ！つうかお前も分かってんだろ！いくら馬を守ったってな。 それに乗って帰るやつは誰もいねえって！
A popular opinion is that Floch really developed in Season 4, but I'd argue that he started to develop much sooner than that. Through all the tears and fear, Floch started to change when he first faced the fear of dying meaninglessly. He confessed to being a complete coward, a trait that became evident when he faced the possibility of a pointless death. But who could blame him? It was a miracle that Erwin convinced the scouts to ride to certain death, but that's part of the reason he was such an amazing commander.
理屈じゃ分かっていたさ。人類がただ壁の中にいるだけじゃ、いつか突然やってくる巨人に食い滅ぼされる。誰かが危険を冒してでも行動しなきゃいけない。誰かを犠牲者にさせないために、自分を犠牲にできるやつが必要なんだってな。そんな勇敢な兵士は誰だ？そう聞かれた時、それは俺だって思っちまったんだ。 でもまさかそうやって死んでいくことがこんなに何の意味もないことだなんて思いもしなかったんだ。考えてみりゃそういう人たちの方が圧倒的に多いはずなのに、なんで自分だけは違うって思っちまったんだろう。
Floch's main drive is simple and relatable. He doesn't want his life to be meaningless, and he wants the freedom to choose what is worth dying for. After witnessing the bloodshed, he understood the kind of impact he wanted to make. He desired to contribute to a significant change in the world and to liberate Eldia from its nightmare. He wanted to make a difference. In Floch's perspective, Commander Erwin's daring actions brought purpose to what would have otherwise been utterly pointless deaths. This might be why Floch respected him. He despised Erwin for leading everyone to their deaths, but he also realized that someone like Erwin was necessary to survive and pave the way to freedom. Seeing Erwin's determination to advance at all costs, Floch started to appreciate the need for a devilish leader like him. After that mission, Floch quickly developed a hatred for anyone outside the walls who contributed to imposing this hell on them, which, in fairness, is quite understandable. He survived the same mission as the others, and even if he hadn't, his opinion is still just as valuable as everyone else's.
お前じゃなく、団長がふさわしいと思った。でもそれは俺だけじゃない。みんなだ。報告書を読んだ誰もがそう思った。なんでエルヴィンじゃないんだって。お前がアルミンの何を知ってるって言うんだ。言ってみろよ。知らないな。俺は幼馴染じゃないし、仲良しでもないから。でもなんでアルミンが選ばれたかはわかる。お前ら二人とリヴァイ兵長が市場に流され、注射薬を私物化し合理性に欠ける判断を下したからだ。
Just like everyone else, Floch has the right to fight and advocate for what he believes will create the best world for him and his people. He has the right to make his own decisions. He has the right to freedom. He feels guilty and finds it ridiculous that a coward like him survived the massacre of Shiganshina while everyone else perished. It's an almost humorous twist of fate. However, the reality remains that for whatever reason, he did survive. And this instills him with a desire to fulfill his purpose with the time that he thinks he has been gifted and not to lead a pointless existence. So if he was going to do anything with his life, he was going to dedicate it to what he believed was the right cause. He believed that the only way to win was by relying on a devil to lead them. And ironically, the same person he criticized soon becomes that very devil. Erwin's plan gave him what Floch considered a second chance at life. So it's not surprising that he fully commits to this path without any doubts. However, his words also hint at another idea, his value of honesty. Because after this ordeal, Floch becomes very direct and candid in expressing the harsh truth.
マルロは最後まで勇敢だったよ。そうだろフロック。話してやれ。
ああ。マルロ・フロイデンベルクは俺と同じキューボ入団の新兵で、その中でも俺たちをよくまとめてくれた。現場は絶望的で、調査兵団は全滅寸前まで追い詰められた。みんなおじけづいてどうにもならなかった時も、あいつだけは仲間を鼓舞し続けた。あいつはすごいやつだったよ。
知ってる。だから私の言うことなんて聞かないんだろうね。
でも最後はあそこに行ったことを後悔しただろう。
He plainly tells Hitch that Marlowe and the others who died probably regretted dying like that. And he is straightforward in saying that Levi and Erwin were too emotional in their decision to save Armin. And he does all of this during a funeral for fallen scouts. But Floch genuinely believes that the entire funeral is a betrayal in the first place because it glorifies all of these deaths as heroic, when in reality, all those that died probably died wishing they had never volunteered in the first place. In Season 4, we see Floch tell the Jaegerists about Erwin's imprisonment, a fact that was supposed to be a secret. You could argue that he did this solely for the benefit of the Jaegerists, but I think that he believed that people deserved to know the truth about what was behind the scenes. He thinks that they have the right to decide what to do after knowing the whole story, a privilege he was never given in the Shiganshina mission. The interesting thing here is that all of this is understandable. It may be dark, and he may have grown to completely ignore and dismiss the suffering they cause on the way to their goal, but I think it's understandable if you consider the hell he has witnessed and the people he cared about who were torn apart. And that's what makes him so realistic. And he's not the only character that embodies this. At this point, I don't think Floch is evil for seeing everyone outside the walls as an enemy. Given the things he's witnessed, it may not be the best approach, but it's not an unimaginable mindset for someone like him to have. But I have to emphasize, at this point, because this is where the almost coherent side of Floch falls away to reveal someone who not only has no reservations about being the person to help lead the Eldian Empire, but who takes pride in it and revels in it. He crosses the line from an understandable yet unlikable character into a genuine threat when he starts showing his borderline sadism. He uses Keith Shadis as a symbolic personification of quite literally stamping out the old ways by beating him up without any hint of remorse. But he could never have done all of this alone, and he was enabled by clinging to the idea of a hero that he believed in through an almost parasitic attachment to a devil. The concept of devils is rife within Attack on Titan. The story needs devils. The story needed Erwin. It needed Eren, and it needs Floch.
エレンが殺されればパラディ島は血の海に沈む。全世界から報復され、お前たちの親や兄弟も子供も皆殺しだ。心臓を捧げよう。
Floch, who admires a different figure in the late commander, doesn't carry forward Erwin's genuine ideals and sentiments. Instead, he indirectly helps the story criticize the significant negatives of Erwin's influence and methods repeatedly through his poor communication of Erwin's true feelings. We see him spouting Erwin's pro-war rhetoric, following what he believed to be his ideals, exaggerating the points that Erwin had already stretched for his and humanity's cause, and interpreting them far differently in meaning meaning than their origin. And that's the thing. In my opinion, while Floch is Erwin's true successor, that doesn't mean he embodies Erwin's ideals to their true honesty. That is carried forward by the likes of Levi, Armin, and Hanji. But for all his faults, the one thing that I cannot stress enough is that Floch was not a coward. He had courage. He gathered enough bravery to join Erwin's charge right from the start, even before season 4, and he stood up to Mikasa with his newfound ideals straight away and didn't hold back in defending what he believed was right. After the time skip, you can accuse him of many things, but cowardice isn't one of them. And as cruel as he was, even someone like him should have the freedom to choose how to live and how to die. After all, that's what this story is about. Floch represents the perspective of the everyday person and how they can be influenced by different factors in their environment. He shows how in response to bloodshed and the desire to have a meaningful life, one can become extreme through war, becoming desensitized to tragedy and unwilling to see other perspectives. It's no surprise that someone like him emerged from this chaos, but despite his cruelty, we can actually learn a lot from him because his character is so human and so perfectly flawed. And without him, in my opinion, Attack on Titan would not nearly be the masterpiece that it is.
使い捨てるぐらいしか使い道もねえだろうが、そんな雑魚にだってな、値踏みする権利くらいはあるだろう。